rich capacity to feed itself and also feed the rest of the world. Well, we are going to be talking about the food crisis in the country today on the Situation Room, talking about the paradox of hunger in a land of plenty. My name is Sage Babalola. This is once again the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. We are streaming the program live on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can very well join the program. Aside from being able to join us in the studio, for those of you who are probably in transit, you are at the office and you're not able to listen to your radio, as long as you have access to the internet, just go on ahead, connect with us on Facebook or on YouTube. You can watch us live in the studio. You can also participate by dropping your comments using the live chat option. You also have the option of Radio Garden, either the website or the app. Just search Mainland 98.3 FM and you can listen to us live. Don't forget, the conversation for today is the food crisis in the country. We're talking about how a country that is capable of feeding itself, or at least has all the resources to feed itself, is relying on other countries to take care of its agricultural needs. Despite the continuous government push to boost local production capacity in recent years, unfortunately, Nigeria has spent a whopping 1.9 trillion naira in importing food. This was in 2022. This is indicating a 5% rise compared to the 2 trillion naira that we spent on food importation in 2021. All of this is data that I gathered from the National Bureau of Statistics, especially the trade report of the NBS. These are the figures that have been provided, and we know that agriculture has remained a very important aspect of any economy. We have viable agricultural programs and activities that in any polity are very capable of sustaining the food supply and also the reserves that is needed for the welfare of the citizens. Although we've seen incidences like climate change, the flood, the clashes between herdsmen and farmers, the activities of bandits, all of these things have added to the food insecurity challenge that we've seen in the country. There's also the issue of population displacement. I mean, we know the rural-urban drift, a lot of people coming from the rural areas to the urban centers, the adoption of certain economic policies like the devaluation of the naira. All of these things have reduced the quality and also the quantity of food supply that we see in the country. And according to the latest NBS statistics, food inflation is currently at 40.8%. This is the highest we've experienced in decades. And although the federal government have assured us that the fear over the imminent food crisis is somewhat unfounded, there are many Nigerians, especially the concerned stakeholders, that are not persuaded that the means and the methods that are being devised by the government at all levels can possibly address this challenge. Because the average Nigerian cannot feed, not because of food unavailability in this case, but rather the inability to afford the food items. Well, joining me this very evening to discuss this paradoxical situation as I described it earlier, such that the citizens of a country that is blessed with 34 million hectares of arable land, if not 36, are unable to conveniently feed themselves, and they have relied on food importation. Our guest for today is business development expert, the founder and lead consultant at Tᴇᴜᴛᴜ Adewale Coaching and Consulting and Tèmítáyọ̀ Adéwọlé Business School. Just like you've probably figured out from the name of his enterprise, his name is Tèmítáyọ̀ Adéwọlé. Good evening to you, sir. It's such a pleasure to have you on radio. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you. Well, as always, we have prepared the minds of our listeners to what to expect on this particular conversation. We're looking at food crisis. We're trying to understand why Nigeria as a country, with all of the resources we have, continue to make up the statistics of hungry people that we have in the world. But then let's start by talking very briefly about the trend of food inflation in the country. It obviously did not suddenly jump to the 40.8% that we currently have at this time. From 2023 till now, food inflation has gone from 22.79% to 34.19%, and now unfortunately 40.8%. In my introduction, I mentioned that this is the highest we've seen in 25 years, and all of these have been attributed to quite a number of factors. So please speak very briefly about this astronomical rise in food inflation over the last couple of years and some of the factors that you believe have influenced this increase that we've seen.
All right. Please can you come again with the last line? Thank you.
what are some of the factors? Speak about the increase that we've seen in food inflation and some of the factors that have been highlighted for the cause. For example, the farmer headers crisis, the inability of farmers to go to farm, the amount of taxes and levies that they've had to pay. A lot of factors have been highlighted as the cause of the food inflation. Just comment on these factors very briefly.
All right. Let me start by saying that it's a pity that we have to find ourselves here. It's a big pity. And all of the factors that you have just mentioned in a robust way has contributed into some of these things, including the adverse weather condition, the climate change, and every other thing. So the inflation, the price inflation on food is a big one that needs attention at a point like this.
All right, so we'll be focusing on a lot of figures for this conversation so that people can really understand the financial implications of some of the decisions we've taken in the past, and this would sort of help us to determine if the effort we've made so far has been worth the output. So in 2021, for example, we spent about 1.9 trillion naira on food importation. In 2022 and 2023, we spent roughly 2 trillion naira each year. So basically, we spend about $10 billion annually on food import, on things like wheat, things like rice, poultry, fish, food services, consumer-oriented food, basically. And this is more or less 4 times the value of our own export. So we spend 4 times the amount of money that we get from exportation on importing food. The federal government recently even announced a 150-day duty-free import window for food commodities, which means that if you're bringing in food commodities, you would not pay the import duty. So they will be importing about 250,000 metric ton of wheat and rice in their semi-processed state. For an administration that's, set up to eradicate hunger in the country by 2030, and they're also aiming for self-sufficiency during that period, what would you say about the decision that the government have made to revert to food importation? Is this a wise decision to take, considering they promise that Nigeria would become a self-sufficient country when it comes to food production?
Okay, so let me look at it from my personal angle. To me, it's not a good decision. It is not a good decision. Instead of us adopting that as a way out, or as a strategic way out, it is expected of us to look inward and identify more ways to help, survey this situation. Because if we proceed with this announcement, there is tendency that we don't go back so soon. And attention would be, there will be more attention to importing than creating internally. And it doesn't show that we are ready to find solutions internally. So I would have just suggested that the government should have just, maybe identify strategies to look inwardly on ways forward than adopting the importation. Because we have been saying it, we've been thinking here and there that we want to be a self-reliant country, we want to, we want to subscribe to, Nigerian own thing and all of that. And here we are again, toasting importation. And the ways are given is going to be a loss on the government. And there's a big disadvantage when I saw the announcement. And I was like, these few days, a lot of things beyond food will come in. I can say that again, a lot of things beyond food will come in. And do we even have regulatory bodies that pay attention on these things that are coming? How are we so sure that these things that are coming in are standard? how are we so sure that there's a good intention, behind this exercise, this activity? But generally, to me, it's not a good one, because it doesn't show that we are ready to solve our problems. It doesn't show that we really have the tenacity to put our solutions together and stick by it. I mean, if there have been pressure here and there, and this pressure is thereby attracting all manners of decisions that have given birth to this, I think there's a way to also pull down those pressures. There are ways to pull down those pressures and pay attention on something that we lack. There are strategies that we can use to bring up trust, even internally. And I'm not saying that work. I'm not saying that in any way.
Speaking of strategies and activities of government, in a bid to, at least in the short term, minimize the incidence of hunger that we're seeing, the federal government decided to start this initiative of distributing trucks of rice to state. I believe 20 trucks of rice to each state in Nigeria, the 36 states and the FCT. And experts have spoken on this. They don't believe that it's a decision that would do anything. They believe it's an effort in futility, because 20 trucks of rice to each state, 20 trucks of rice is hardly enough to even feed one local government in Kano State, for example, because of the population. So what are your own personal views about this decision of the government to distribute rice to state? Do you believe that the funds that are being used for these short-term initiatives can be better used, or do you think that they have indeed done the right thing, at least for the short term, whilst they are simultaneously thinking of a more permanent solution?
That initiative, fine, it's okay, but to me, it's not the best. That initiative, fine, some persons would like it, but the reality is that food will not get to some places. It will not even get to the right people. Now, I was doing the calculation and I realized that they said in a truck we have about 1,225 kg, not even 50 kg, 25 kg. Now, let's assume that the 25 kg is being shared by 5 persons. That is 5 kg. Now, multiply by that. It will not even reach 150,000. So, okay, let's say it's only 200,000 people. So, what's the essence? Rice that I will eat now, and tomorrow I will remember that I'm still hungry. Something that will happen just, it's a one-off thing. We don't want one-off decisions. We don't want one-off initiatives. We want initiatives that will last longer. And that is why I say this, that when you're coming up with initiatives that will take time, educate the people to understand this, to buy into it and understand the process, and stay transparent about it. Let them see that this is it that we're doing, and it's going to take this and this. So whatever you want to do as palliative will just be for temporary. It will not solve any problem. It will not solve any problem, and far from that is that it will not even get to the right people. So to me, it's a no-no. It's a no-no. Whoever has brought that, has just initiated a better way to waste money. Waste fund.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Okay, so let's talk long-term plans of government. Now, aside from the distribution of rice, the President Bola Tinubu's administration did come up with this initiative of creating a new Ministry of Livestock Development. You know that there's this problem within the agricultural sector of the farmer headers crisis. You probably have heard in the news of these clashes that have borderline wiped out communities, where a lot of these nomads, drive their cows into the farm farmlands of these farmers, and then sometimes they take up arms. They fight themselves to the point where villages are being eradicated, farmlands are being burnt. And so the presidency, in their own wisdom, decided to set up a new Ministry of Livestock Development. And I believe that some of the ideas that would fly under this ministry is the idea of ranching, for example, where we're able to keep these cows, these livestock in a specific area, and they're hoping that in the long term it would help to abate the crisis of the farmer herders clashes. What, first of all, is your opinion about the decision to create a new ministry? Bear in mind that there's been many conversations about cutting the cost of government, because setting up a new ministry means you would of course have to have budgetary allocations made available for the running of that ministry, and we already have a Ministry of Agriculture. So what are your views about deciding to set up a brand new Ministry of Livestock when we already have an agricultural ministry, and also the plan to abate the farmer herders crisis? Do you believe that this ranching initiative, for example, is the perfect way to go?
Well, creating a new ministry is not necessary. Maybe we would have just improved on the department within the entire ministry, not just separating this ministry, but but there's something that I want to say. This will not just solve the problem.
How so?
This will not still solve the problem. You see, I have had experiences with some of these guys, some of these headsmen and all of that, and I realized that there's this belief in them that they own the land, so we can work on it the way we like. We can just behave the way we want. So it will not solve it, because these people are not learned. Some of them are not learned, even though that some of the people that own this cow are learned. Some of the guys in charge are not learned. So they believe they can run the show the way they like. That ministry will not solve the problem. I see it. To me, it looks more political than reality. It would have been a perfect solution if it has a clear, sustainable approach. But it can't. It can't. We have 36 states in Nigeria plus the FCC. How do you want to work it out? How do you want to get to those inner places? Because we should look at other things that have happened in the past. How they solved it? What practical approach have they taken or have they adopted to solve all of these things? I mean, these things are inner. So it's not going to work. To me, it's not going to work. But if the intention is right, and we put the right things in place. Now, let me give an example. I know of an area, and this Fulani guy would go to the elders there, and they give these guys 400,000 each, and let us just come a place. And this elder collected the 400,000. So some communities did not collect. Some communities collected rather. So whenever they come into some of these communities that have collected, those guys will say, okay, go into other places so when they get to other places, there's always fight. And at the end of the day, we got to know that some persons who are not even, from this area, who are not Fulani or whatever, collected money. Some of them are Yoruba. They collected money from them, allowing them inside. I'm talking of where I know now. So I don't know how it wants to work. Not in an environment where corruption is everywhere. But that ministry is coming with something hidden. I call it hidden agenda. Thank you.
Okay. All right then, let's see how it plays out at the end of the day. So to you, the idea in itself is not necessarily the problem, but the implementation of that idea might be what would be a little bit tricky, especially because of our peculiarities in Nigeria. I got you. Welcome to the program once again. If you're just joining us, it is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. We're having a conversation about the food crisis in Nigeria. We're trying to understand why we're seeing an increase in the food inflation in Nigeria. 40.8% is no small number, the highest we've seen in 25 years. Why does food inflation continue to be on the rise? The plans of the government to allow for importation into the country, the decision to waive the import duties on rice and wheat specific food items as well, and also the rice distribution initiative of the federal government to the 36 states and the FCT. We're trying to evaluate if these initiatives will in any way be able to solve the problem, or at least minimize the suffering of the people, make food more available to the people. As laudable as this initiative sounds to the ear, a lot of problems, a lot of inefficiencies have been pointed out by experts and stakeholders within the sector. Well, I am having a conversation this evening on the Situation Room with Tèmítáyọ̀ Adéwọlé. He's a business development expert. He's the founder and lead consultant at Tèmítáyọ̀ Adéwọlé Coaching and Consulting, and also Tèmítáyọ̀ Adéwọlé Business School. And we have been speaking so far on the matter of food crisis, trying to understand the paradox between a country that is supposed to be able to cater to itself and a people who are hungry. We're continuing conversations, but then be reminded that you can join us on Facebook and on YouTube via our streaming platforms. You can start leaving your messages. We're not taking phone calls at the moment. We'll soon open the phone lines right as we get through the questions, but you can actually start dropping your comments on our Facebook page that currently is doubling as our streaming platform. So drop your submissions as we get through the conversation in real time. Once it's time for us to start taking feedback, I will read those messages, and then we'll also open the phone lines. You can also text us on WhatsApp 0913-6000-430. That's where you leave your messages, but phone calls are somewhat suspended for now. So we're continuing. I did say phone calls were suspended, but then we're continuing the conversations right now. So let's have a conversation about the grain reserve in the country. Now, this grain reserve initiative, the Strategic Grain Reserve Storage Program in Nigeria, this is something that started as far back as the 1987 thereabout, when the strategic adjustment programs came about, and then it's been decades. The whole idea was, in moments of national disaster, for example, flooding, or just in the events that we're unable to farm or provide food for ourselves, these reserves will be open and food will be made available to people. So the idea is to farm as much as we can, store these grains, whether it be rice, whether it be wheat, maize, amongst other things. But about last year, it came to our knowledge that the silos, the storage facilities, are empty. We barely have any grain in reserve. And now that we're seeing issues of flood, for example, now that we're seeing issues of the farmer headers crisis where farmers are unable to go to their farms, now that we're seeing issues, the rise of bandits where farmers are being held at ransom, amongst many other challenges that the local farmers are facing, a time where the grain reserve would have been a perfect way to surmount the problem that we're currently going through with the food crisis. We have nothing, barely anything in storage. What would you say about that, and how can we move forward from this situation?
We see we have bright ideas in Nigeria, but we don't know how to sustain it. Nigeria is a fantastic place. God bless Nigeria, and God bless every Nigerian. But the reality is that we start but we don't finish. We start or we don't maintain. Our maintenance culture is very poor, and there I don't understand why it's been like that. But we need to change that mindset. Now, a lot of us have a wish. Now, in quotes, we wish a better Nigeria, but in reality, we are not contributing to processes that will take us there. You see, what you have just said now is is something that we should not be negotiating. It's something that we should not just let go. If everything drops, we should not just we shouldn't just let that go. It is important. Here we are now. Here we are. We cannot even find any of this grain reserve working. So what am I going to say here? I'll just say that if we can, intentionally adopt this reserve, like revamp it and ensure that it starts working again, maybe it will help us. And we should also encourage private sectors to, if it's possible, we should encourage private sector, private individuals to also buy into some of these things. Because naturally now, some persons they reserve their stocks. They reserve, but why are they reserved? They only reserve let me not say reserve, they hoard. That's what is happening now to some private persons and private organizations. They hoard instead of them reserving. And we can't get better if we continue that way. So what I would just say is that if we can revamp this process, this situation, it will help us go very well and let us have not just in one place but in multiple locations. The government can also adopt it, local government can adopt it, individuals too can adopt it. So it's going to be a massive support for the nation. Thank you.
All right, establishing an active grain reserve. Let's talk a little bit about the local farmers, because entrepreneurship, a subject that you are fortunately an expert, is basically one of the pillars, the foundation of any economy, in any polity, in any country. The small business owners, the small farmers, they constitute the strongest part of the economy. So let's talk about the local farmers, right? Aside from the fact that they're able to grow their crops painfully, by the way, because the bulk of them still use archaic tools. They don't have access to machines that could aid their process. What I'm saying is they don't have the capacity to practice mechanized farming, but somehow they're able to grow their crops to the best of their abilities. But then sadly, the limited quantity that they're able to grow, at the end of the day, only half gets to the market. Why? Because half has been damaged. I'm talking about post-harvest losses. They don't have adequate storage facilities. The time it takes for them to move these products from their farmland after harvest to the market is sometimes so long, so extended, especially for those who practice farming that has to do with perishables, tomatoes and other things like that. Within a week, half of their produce is damaged, so they already suffer post-harvest losses. There's some losses that happens when you move these items as well, and so they barely are able to make any profit that they can even put back into the business. In what way can we aid these local farmers such that they are not victims of post-harvest losses and they have enough to take care of themselves and also supply the market?
Yes, I think the number one thing I would suggest here is that the government should help to create parameters for acquiring more knowledge on how to succeed as farmers in this, within the nature of these problems. Now, a lot of people have been experiencing these problems year in, year out, and no solution. So they've now they seen it as a normal thing. It has become so normal to them. But what can we do to help these people? Now we need to empower them. They need to know ways out. We need to empower them. A lot of them are informal people, so they don't care to ask why. They don't care to ask why, and they don't care to know how to overcome it. So they only believe in, if it is like this, maybe we should just get more land so that our loss will be reduced, or kind of, but we need to empower them more in the areas of knowledge. In the areas of knowledge, we have the Association of Agriculturists and all of that. What are you doing with your members? We need to educate them more. And a lot of persons still don't believe in weather forecasts, still don't believe in, all manners of forecasts. Now, if we have this result from our research institute, they do a lot of researches, and what do you do with this result? Do you just keep it inside your institute for just personal or institutional use alone? Put it out there. Find a way to reach out to these farmers and empower them. Now, there are times that the problem is not even the farmers per se. The problem might be the seedlings. The problem might be the kind of soil. The problem might be, it can be diverse as much as but they need to have a consistent knowledge. They should be able to knowledge, education around how to get better. And that is why our researchers should go down to the grassroots and ask questions about these problems. Of course, these guys are facing kind of problems. They have problems here and there. But how can we help them? How can we help them? Look at what happened lately to tomato. That was massive. There was a time around the Korodu where the tomato planted around the Korodu, all the tomatoes weren't doing well. What happened? Because it was because of the climate change and the poor soil and all of that. In fact, all the farmers there that year, couldn't, make sense of anything from the farm. But when some set of researchers got to that farm, what they did was they took this photo and asked why, and they realized that the problem was the soil and the climate. So what do we do next? Because if we think that these people know best, they know how to do it, they are farmers, we should keep praising them, and they keep giving us what they're giving us, then there'll be problems. So let us help them. Government can help us. Government can come to our head. Knowledge is key here, because everything is changing. Everything is changing. The climate is changing. The soil is changing. The seedling changing. Everything is changing. So we need to empower these people with the right knowledge. That is the first thing. Now, the other thing is that you see, some of these farmers are limited to what they have, where they are, and what they can do. So a lot of persons have never dared to think of going bigger. Of course, we have some persons that are not adopting the mechanical model. Yes, they are doing that. Some are doing up to 10 acres, 20 acres. In fact, some are doing more. Do you understand? But they are so used to how they've been doing it. But we need to encourage them. We need to encourage them. We need to be there. We need to, understand, how these things work. And they too must be in the new market to understand how to get better. Now, let's not restrict ourselves to what is happening here alone in Nigeria. We can also expose some of these farmers to, other countries to see how they do things and adopt this system into their operations. So it is very, very key. So the biggest problem here is knowledge. I've been to farms where I do research. I've been to places where I see how these people think, and I'll be like, the problem is not what we think. The problem is this person don't really have access to the right knowledge that would have helped him overcome or avoid this problem next time.
Let's talk about what happens in the markets as well. Nigerians, right, we unfortunately have a trait, or let me not generalize, many of us unfortunately have a trait where we take advantage of painful situations and we hurt each other even more. Even in the oil sector, we see it with fuel attendants, with these filling stations where they deliberately create artificial scarcity. They lock the filling stations for days. So now there's scarcity, and then they open it, and then they determine the price. Desperation has grown. The desperate person will buy at whatever price you make it available at. And if we translate this logic to people in the market, I'm talking about the traders, the one who sell the food to us, it's many times that they've been accused by the consumer that they inflate the prices. I mean, of course, we know that things are expensive, but then you go to the market and then the average market woman have inflated the price at over 20% in a bid to make more profit than they ideally or morally should. And many people will say, well, it's a private business. I'm the one running my business. The government cannot tell me how much I'm supposed to sell my product. I know how much I spent, cost of production, amongst other things, logistics. So nobody can tell me how much to sell my product. But then this decision obviously is something of a catalyst to the inability of the average consumer to afford these food items. So talk about that activity that plays out, this scenario that plays out in the market as well, and how it has impacted the food crisis, or in this case, the inability to afford basic food items.
I'm happy that you asked this question. A lot of marketmen or marketmen in the food sector, are the problems we have. Not even the government at some point. Now, please tell me, I was somewhere to check why Gari, or the general Gari, why would Gari go up? Okay, so I was somewhere again, I'm coming back to that. So I was somewhere and I was like, okay, so how much is this Congo of Gari? Then they were selling from Naira, 900 Naira, 700 Naira. And how much is this Congo? He said 700 Naira. So why I was asking, a call came in, and it was from the farm. And the guy was like, madam, please don't sell that Gari here too. Don't sell that Gari here. We are planning to increase it. And the man asked him, so how much? He said, so we're looking at 1,100 Naira. So I said, madam, please ask him why? So he asked the guy, and the guy was like, that they went to the farm that particular day, and they realized that the yield was not what they expected, so it was below. So how would they meet up with the margin? So they have to just increase the prices. So there is no price control anywhere. I heard of a state or a locality in a state, I won't mention the state, where the king called all the Gari sellers to say, see, people, we know how you do this thing. Please bring the prices down, because it doesn't make any sense to hike prices unnecessarily. You know what happened? Those Gari sellers decided to shut down, and the people that had Gari that period decided to take it up. Why? Because they couldn't buy or have access to the farm, and they took it from 600 or thereabout to about 1,000 plus. Now let's come to how much they sell a truck of cassava. A truck of cassava, when I say a truck, like a pickup, so a truck is around 300 or 350, and by the time you finish, you finish working on that cassava, you realize that the cost of, are you saying something?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, the cost of Gari per bag would amount to about 42,000 naira. I was still discussing with a person today. So why are we now selling for 52,000 naira in the market? Some persons are selling, they call it Jebu Gari, they call it one yellow Gari, they call it this other Gari. So we intentionally take it up. Now look at this part I want to say now. Palm oil, naturally, palm oil, yields when we have the harmattan. Last year there was no harmattan, but this year we had more harmattan. Do you believe, or can you believe that palm oil did not leave 23,000 naira per 25 liters for this year? city told us. And so we have to live by that. So now, you see, some of the prices, some of these prices have gone up not because that is what they should sell. It is because we all have the liberty to determine our prices. I can tell you that. So we need price control if it is possible. Look at elubo. The elubo we make with cassava. How much they were selling it for? Elubo that nobody would even look at. 400 naira per Congo, 500 naira per Congo. Now we are selling elubo for 1,200, 1,300. Please, what is the determinant of that increment? Now Gary has come down. Gary came down as at day before yesterday and all of that to 1,001 per Congo to final consumers now. That means from the market they are selling about 800. So but I can tell you that some persons are still selling for 1,500. Some persons are still selling for 1,400. And I have seen people are still selling for 1,600. Please, the problem is not even the government on this side. Though we have the government, the problem caused by the government also, that is from the logistic part, because that is the key thing. That's the key to the logistics, because of bringing it from the farm to the city. So look at something. I was at Iᴛᴜ, to check a farm, on research. So I saw mango then when mango was out, and I was like, oh, please, I need this mango. And they gave me about 10 for 50 naira or 100 naira. So getting back to Lagos, I was at Surulere and I saw, Madam, how much is your mango? She said 3 for 500 naira. I said, Madam, how did we get here? I was saying yesterday to buy this, and you are telling me, where did you buy from? She said she bought from Iᴛᴜ. I said, so what determines this increment? The problem is not the government to an extent. The problem is from the marketers.
Right.
The market women, the market guys.
Right. Let's move to other questions, because I have spoken to a lot of these traders, and they've explained that, well, this is my only source of livelihood, and my house rent is increasing, my children's school fees have increased, I have to fuel my generator at the house, amongst other things. So the only way I can take care of these extra expenses is for me to increase the price of the goods or services that I render. That's the justification that they've given for this astronomical prices. But because of our time, let's move to other questions. Whilst you were analyzing, you did speak about logistics being a primary bane when it comes to agriculture, transporting these food items from the farmland to the market. And yesterday, Professor Pat Utomi, the political economist and the lecturer at the Lagos Business School, he did put out an article and he said quite a number of things. He even titled it as "Famine Looms," meaning that if we continue with this trajectory, chances are we would experience farming in the country. And one thing he also highlighted, right, is some of the activities of the Nigeria Customs Service, the police, the FIRS, for example, all of which are on this aggressive revenue drive. So when we have individuals who are, for example, importing agricultural products into the country, or those who are even using land transportation, driving the trucks from the villages or wherever to the cities, there are over 7, 8, 9, 10 checkpoints, and for every time you are stopped, chances are you would have to pay some sort of fee. Unreceipted fees. You don't even get a receipt. You don't know what it's for. You just have to pay the money, right? And that this is also a problem. Every business person is in business to make profit. So if, for example, logistics normally is supposed to cost them about 10,000 naira, this is just an example, but then in distributing or in transporting these products, they have spent about 5,000 naira in paying some sort of levy or duty on the road, because these agencies are trying to make money, they're trying to generate revenue. At the point of sale, they are also going to find a way to make up for that 5,000 naira loss. So they probably would add it to the cost of the product. So how do we go about harmonizing the transportation taxes and levies that these individuals have to pay, so that we don't see the effect in the final cost of the product?
Okay, so let's not deceive ourselves. We cannot rule that out. That's the reality. We can't rule that out. Okay, so the change starts from the task force. Most of these people have task force. The task force will collect their money. When we say task force, it's not the government task force now. It is maybe the association and all of that. That's the first people, the first set of people. Then we now come to, if we have the tax guys, I don't know, then we now talk about the police and then the federal road safety. You know, those guys will definitely collect their money because there's no way how do you want to beat it? You cannot beat it. They will collect the money. They will collect it. Is their right. That's what they think. It is their right, and it is so they will collect it. So how do we do this? Now, for me, if governments would also still help us to enforce it on their guys, not to enforce this collection. But for the one for the task force, they must pay it. They can't overrule that. They have to pay it. If it is 5,000, they pay it. So definitely they will just need to add it up to their cost of production, and there's nothing we want to do about it. But in as much that we still have roadblocks on the road, we still have the FRS guys on the road, I mean, they will continue to collect it. And there's nothing we can do about it. Because our eyes cannot be everywhere. Thank you.
Let's also talk about another recommendation of Professor Patutomi. He spoke about the initiative of forest rangers and local armies that would protect farmers. Remember, we're still talking about local farmers. They are afraid. We have states in Nigeria where farmers are paying taxes to bandits, so they will allow them use their farm. And then after harvesting, they will take bags of grains to these bandits so that they're able to move their products out of the farm. It's very unfortunate that in a country where we have a government, right, we have farmers that are negotiating with bandits, paying money to bandits. Please allow me access my own farm. And then after harvesting, please allow me move my products. And then we have to pay them in cash or in grains. And so Professor Patutomi says we should have forest rangers, we should have local armies. Their primary duty would be to safeguard these farmers whilst they are going to farm to plant, all of the activities, transporting the products, amongst other things. In a situation where we're still having a conversation about establishing state police and all the many contentious perspective that has come out or ideas that have come out regarding this, do you think that this idea is something that we can fully implement, where we have these forest rangers or local armies and their duty is to safeguard farmers so that they can return to their place of primary assignment? What do you think?
Someday the bandits will be enlisted into that force and they'll become spies. So let's leave that like that. Let's leave that. So what I want to say is that even before if we are going to adopt that, and if we think it is something that is going to probably help us, I think this is a time where we need to now put down a realistic check on all of our states and identify how this insecurity is affecting. Now let's take from Ogun State to Oyo State to Ekiti to Ondo and to all other parts of the country. So let us set it right and check very well. Okay, so how is this particular problem affecting the agricultural sector of the state? So because I have seen that we how do I put it now? I'm looking for the right word. We have put everything together. It is not like that. Let us separate it. Let us know the level of effect in each state. It will help us know what to decide on. So for what Prof has said, it's okay, but it's not something that I want to guarantee. But before then, we should take advantage of the data from each state and know how these problems, all of these problems we have, been talking about, how it's been affecting each state. Okay, that was the time the governor of Oyo State was on radio and he was he was so angry that day, and it was like, okay, so why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are you taking up prices when you know that it does not worth it? So the problem at times is not what we think. Okay, so I will just pause there. So let us just find out. Let's do our research, our background check on each state. Let's profile each state and be sure of what the peculiarity of this problem is. Then we can now, maybe it will help us make the right decision. That's what I would say there.
Well, Tᴇᴜnᴛᴇ Adewale, we have less than 5 minutes before we slowly round off the question and answer session so that people can have an opportunity to speak. And at 5, we actually have the headline news and we have a few commercials, so we would have to pause conversations. But before we do that, it's like a system on the program. We start by highlighting the problem as we should, understanding the problem, but then we round off by preferring solutions to the problem. Because what's the point of analyzing the problem if you're not going to talk about ways to solve that particular problem? So we know what the problems are clearly from the conversation that we've had. So how do we take care of this problem? Remember that we have a presidential food system coordination unit that was set up basically to take care of the food problem we have in the country. Like I said, we have an agricultural ministry. We have different committees that have been set up, and their primary function, funded committees, is to deal with the food crisis we have in the country. But clearly, from the issues, food inflation we've seen right now, there is hardly any proof that these committees are doing enough. Now, we're not focusing on their inefficiency or trying to insinuate inefficiency, but we're not seeing the reward of setting up these committees. So what can we do to solve these problems? Do we continue setting up committees? Do we set up the forest rangers or the local armies? Do we focus on importation for now? Or do we come up with new, fresh strategies? In what ways do you think we can abate the food crisis in the country? In 2 minutes, if you can. Please go ahead.
Okay, I think one thing I want to suggest is that if the presidency can have a public pool and let everybody, come up with their suggestions, because I'm sure a lot of people have 1 or 2 suggestions. Let them come up with their suggestions and they see this suggestion. I mean, this is more robust than the committee, they are creating. But more importantly, I want to say that let us have more acceleration programs within the agriculture. Let's have more innovative programs within the agriculture, encourage more people to come into agriculture, and then make provisions to support them. Agriculture alone can give you multiple employment. So bring in more people, improve the mindset of people to embrace agriculture. I mean, from the university stage into the NYC, into all areas where we have people. Please bring in more people into this sector. I mean, that's the biggest solution for me now, apart from every other thing we have.
All right, then. Well, thank you so very much. It's been something of an hour conversing with you. For those of you wondering, I have been speaking with a business development expert, the founder and lead consultant at Tᴇᴜnᴛᴇ Adewale Coaching and Consulting and Tᴇᴜnᴛᴇ Adewale Business School. His name, of course, is Tᴇᴜnᴛᴇ Adewale, and we've been having a conversation about the food crisis in the country. We've been talking about the paradox of hunger in a land of plenty, trying to analyze what the problems are and also prefer solutions to the problem. Our guest believes that stakeholder involvement, having conversations with people who actually know the business of agriculture and getting their opinions, and also focusing on long-term solutions, since we already know what the problems are, might be the only way we can save this sector of the economy. Agriculture, which sadly used to be the mainstay of the economy. Now, agriculture being the mainstay of the economy is not what I consider sad, but how we have fallen so far into the rabbit hole that we are barely able to feed ourselves, not to talk of establishing some sort of agricultural value chain or developing our value chain when it comes to agriculture. My name is Sage Babalola. We will go for the headline news at about 5 p.m. We would also take a few commercials. When we come back, I'll open the phone lines. I'll read the messages we have on Facebook. I'll read our text messages and hear what we have to say. Tᴇᴜnᴛᴇ Adewale, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so very much, and I look forward to more conversations like this one.
Thank you very much.
You have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Yes. The Situation Room continues. Of course, not to worry. You'd have all the time in the world to communicate. I did promise that I'll make the phone lines available as soon as possible, because a lot of you have accused me of not giving you time to speak. Don't worry. Right after the commercials, I'm opening the phone lines. The headline news is next at 5 p.m. Please stick around.
Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial. 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial.
Follow us on all our social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM, on Twitter at Mainland FM. We are the sound of Lagos.
Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial. 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial.
Mainland 98.3 FM, your number one radio. Reaching stars, the sound of Lagos.
Headline news on 98.3 Mainland FM.
Good evening. Headline news on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Babalola Sandra. President Tinubu seeks injection of 6.2 trillion naira into 2024 budget. Lagos denies return of monthly sanitation movement restrictions. Court reinstates Shaibu as Edo Deputy Governor. Assembly appeals judgment. Local government autonomy. 13 states rush to hold council polls. In business, UK inflation holds steady at 2%, boosting hopes for interest rate cut. On the foreign scene, Biden to propose Supreme Court term limits and ethic codes. In sports, Thiago Alcantara, ex-Liverpool star, joins coaching staff just weeks after retirement. That's the headline news on Mainland FM. Details at 5:30.
You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. The sound of Lagos.
Attention everyone, this is an important message about cholera.
Cholera is a serious disease, but we can stop it together.
Remember to always drink clean, safe water. Boil or treat your water before drinking.
Wash your hands with soap and clean water, especially before eating and after using the toilet.
Cook your cholera and keep our community healthy.
This message is brought to you by Mainland 98.3 FM, Lagos. Stay safe, stay healthy. That smartphone you've been eyeing, that one that seems just out of reach because of its hefty price tag? Hold up, MTN has got your back, bringing you an effortless way to snag your dream phone without emptying your pocket with Easy Buy. Choose any phone you fancy and conveniently spread the payment over 3 to 12 months. Keep your budget intact and your smartphone dreams. But wait, there's more. Not only do you get to enjoy budget-friendly payment option, but you also enjoy up to 10 gig free MTN data. Now, that's a steal. Don't watch your dream phone slip away. What are you waiting for? Visit the nearest mobile phone retail outlet. Look for the Easy Buy agent. Terms and conditions apply. MTN. What are you doing today?
Correct food, they always give me joy. That's why anytime I they cook like this, I they always season them with no cubes. Come add correct vegetables inside: ugu, tatasheo, shombo, onions. No one wey I no dey put. Na him make my pikin dem dey always enjoy my cooking.
Daddy, I never will. I want more.
You see? Sama all your food with correct vegetables. Come season am with no cubes for that ogbonge delicious taste. Today, chop better.
Fixing your damaged phone just feels like a lot of wahala and can be very expensive, right? But not anymore. MTN is here with a solution to help you protect your phones. Accident happens. So imagine this. Your phone falls into water. No wahala. Your screen cracks. No wahala. Your phone gets burned. No wahala. Why? Because accidental damages are also covered. Even if you're lazy like me and cannot cope with the stress of getting your phone fixed, your damaged phone will be picked up, fixed and dropped off, all while you chill at home. And the best part is, you also enjoy free MTN data when you purchase any device protection plan. Seriously, who doesn't love free data? You also enjoy free MTN data when you purchase any device protection plan. To enjoy your device with peace of mind, visit mtn.ng/device services to get your pocket-friendly device protection plan. MTN, outdo yourself.
Looking for ways to save your data? It starts with your apps. Deleting unused apps helps, but there is more. Most apps have data saver modes. Activate them to control data usage. You can also go to settings to turn off auto updates. Lastly, close unused apps to save data when you ain't using your apps. These changes can make a big difference. For more information, visit your mobile operator's website or consumer.ncc.gov.ng for more helpful tips. Stay connected and enjoy smarter data usage. This message is brought to you by the Association of Telecom Operators and Nigerian Communications Commission.
You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. The sound of Lagos.
Things seem anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there's not. If there were,
in our quest to bring to the table issue-based conversation around nationhood and development, we have made 4 to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday the perfect time to welcome you into the Situation Room as we continue to build the narrative about public service and accountability.
Mr. President, this Senate needs to know. Mr. President, this Senate needs to lend its voice to the plight of these people. Mr. President, there is nowhere I can say it except here. This is why I'm elected. If I cannot say these things on this floor, sir, I better resign and leave.
As elections give the citizens the chance to make their political decisions, constant demand for quality leadership from those they voted into office.
Look at us now, there is nothing, we are starving. Tinubu should please do something.
It's also important to having a Nigeria of everyone's dream. Join Ʌᴏᴜᴜ Akínyòdé as it takes to task seasoned analysts, opinion makers, business professionals, and politicians on issues around politics, policies, governance, and leadership every Monday to Friday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on your super dial. Mainland 98.3 FM will welcome you next as we discuss the situations.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is still the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. We started this conversation at 4 p.m. We had Adewale join us in the studio to have a conversation about the food crisis that we have in the country. Well, Tèmítáyọ̀ Adéwọlé, that's actually his full name. He is a business development expert, the founder and lead consultant at Tèmítáyọ̀ Adéwọlé Coaching and Consulting, and also Tèmítáyọ̀ Adéwọlé Business School. He spoke to us about food crisis in the country, and the subtopic, of course, happens to be the paradox of hunger in a land of plenty. We spoke about the rise in food inflation, importation and Nigeria's unstable food provision strategies. We spoke about the import duty waiver on imported agricultural products, an initiative of the government, and also the rice distribution initiative of the government to the 36 states and the FCT, as well as the proposed livestock ministry of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Also, in the middle of all of that conversation, we spoke about the farmer header crisis and how the introduction of the livestock ministry would, in a way, abate this particular problem. We spoke about establishing an active, or in this case, re-establishing an active grain reserve. We spoke about combating post-harvest losses that a lot of these local farmers experience, and also in a way how to improve our agricultural export and also our value chain development. Some of the initiatives by Professor Patu Tome, it's an article that was published in the Punch newspaper yesterday. I advise that you read it. He had a lot to say. It's titled As Famine Looms. He gave a lot of recommendations, but I picked a few because of our time. He spoke about how we need to start working on forest rangers and local armies that can take care and protect farmers so they're able to conduct their business without fear of abduction or being attacked by these bandits, and also how a lot of these government agencies, these revenue generating government agencies, especially those who are on the roads, collect multiple levies from these drivers, those who transport food from one part of the country to the other, and then they have to add these losses to the cost of the products in the market. And we did something of a mini appraisal of the Agric Ministry and the Presidential Food System Coordinating Units that was set up, how well they have done. And then we spoke about how we can solve this problem. And our guest said that maybe it's time for us to start looking at stakeholder meetings. Let experts within the sector, private sector, let them come into our agricultural sector and give advice on the best way to deal with the individual problems. Forgive me for spending a little bit of time summarizing the conversation that we've had, because there's some people who are probably just tuning in and they want to be a part of the conversation. So at least now they know exactly what to comment on. Please call the studio line 0913-6000-410. That's how you call us. You can send a text message or a WhatsApp message to the number 0913-6000-430. And then you can join our live stream on Facebook and on YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. Let's take our first call for the evening. Hello, good evening to you.
Sheikh Babalola, good evening.
Good evening to you, Elijah Bar.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to comment on this livestock ministry.
Okay.
Like your guest said, it looked to me there's a motive behind it. You see, I don't see the reason why livestock ministry should be created. You can as well create a ministry of farmers, or ministry of spare parts. I mean, does it mean that livestock ministry, livestock is important than others? So I think that's why I said there's a motive behind what the president is doing. And to me, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of. It's not even necessary. Well, on the issue of commodity, food, high cost of food. What are we saying? We know the cause of this issue. For the past 2 or 3 years ago, somebody said these headers they're going to create a starvation for Nigeria, and this is exactly what we are facing. Well, you see, instead of our president to face the reality, you are not creating a livestock ministry. I mean, it's uncalled for. It's not even expected from our president. Let him face. You see, look, let him face the reality. These bandits will be crushed. I have never seen where these bandits were arrested in messing up a farmer's, farmer's farm. So you see, there's a motive behind it. It's just like they're deceiving us. They're making us, miserable.
Thank you very much, Elijah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for calling. Hello. Hello. Oh, please try to make it back. I apologize for that. Call back if you can. 0913-6000-410. The topic is food crisis. Hello. Good evening.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, this is Prince from Lagos.
All right, nice to have you. Please go ahead, sir.
I'm taking my time to listen to your guest there, and have my observations to make as well.
Okay.
When the head is sick, what do you expect of the other parts of the body? Will there be wholesomeness? Will there be health? I think other parts of the body will be sick. To me, that is exactly what's happening in Nigeria here. No, I cannot personally, as a development consultant, say exactly what is the policy direction of this government. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
Hello?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, I cannot say exactly what is the policy direction of the present administration of APC under Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What does government want to achieve? Is it to satisfy the people's welfare or to win another election? I would like to be told, I would like to know, because sometimes the whole thing seems confusing. I don't understand what's going on.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to create.
We have just 2 minutes. We're allotted 2 minutes for conversations. Please wrap up your thoughts, sir. Wrap up your thoughts, sir. You have just a few seconds left.
Yeah, what I'm saying that the Ministry of Animal Husbandry or Livestock Development, what is it all about? Can the department in the Ministry of Agriculture take care of that? Can the state governors take care of that? Why should it be a Christian at the federal level? Are you talking about not having fund enough to take care of many things? You say food scarcity. We should know the cause of food scarcity now. The headers have chased away farmers from their farmlands.
Thank you so much.
So how can farmers go to farm?
Thank you.
So how do you expect to have food? What about?
Thank you so much, sir. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Good evening. Good evening.
Babalola, good evening. Alabala is my name. I'm from Ojo in Lagos.
Nice to have you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Babalola, please, you need to educate someone first. The reason why the president didn't see to create the Ministry of Livestock, if we don't have enough food, are we not the ones shouting that, oh, there's no food, oh, there's no this, are we not? And the president is trying to look for every means. And don't forget, this president that we have is a listening president. Some people will be part of us that will give him the advice. Why not do this? If we have Ministry of Livestock, what's wrong there? If I can have enough meat or chicken, everything to eat, and other people to eat, would anybody worry that we are hungry? There's nothing wrong in that area.
Sir, I'm sorry, you have your time not to worry. I don't think people have a problem with the creation. They're saying, why does he have to be created separately? We already have a Ministry of Agriculture. Can't you make it a department?
This is democracy. Babalola, you can become president tomorrow and decide that you want to create a ministry of another thing.
I can't do
that. Are you getting my point?
I can't make that
decision. I just want to say this. Let me just quickly say this. See the solution, part of the solution, and another solution is that it should allow the state, the community policy to start work. As the president has given, as the Supreme Court has given note to the local government to get their money directly, we should also look for means how we can have state and community policy. If you can have state and community policy, issue of farmer killing, kidnapping, and everything.
You still had a few seconds, Mr. Alabalakwe. I don't know if you'll be able to call back and use 10 seconds, but then let's keep the calls coming in. I'm going to take this one call and then look at the messages we have on Facebook so far. So let's answer this one. Hello, good evening. Please turn down the volume on your radio, sir. Nice to have you.
Thank you very much for taking my call.
Good evening, sir.
See, here's what we are getting wrong with this country. Okay, my name is Lucky, calling from Yana.
All right, welcome.
The truth of the matter, I don't think we have scarcity of food in this country. I don't think so. There is food. If you want to buy 10 bags of rice, you can buy it. If you want to buy 1 carton of turkey, you buy it. But what we are having now is that where is the money to buy it? Not that we have scarcity of food. There is food everywhere. But we don't have power of money to purchase it. And what I would disagree with your guest there, if I want to talk about why Gary is going up. Let me just make an example. Okay. I spoke with somebody. When the Tinubu take over government, the rubber of Gary was 900, at highest 1,000 naira. The woman said her own life is to sell Gary. Now, if she be able to sell one Gary, one rubber at that time, she can use that one rubber 1,000. She can buy a Jerica of this 200 naira or 150. You will buy fish. 1,000 is enough for her to buy everything.
But now what people come in now you are buying a derica of beans 2,000, fish 1,000 by 2,000. So you want that woman now to sell all the whole farm when he have that day to buy beans and fish. So what the next is going to do, she has to increase her own market to match up with the demand in the market. That depends on people. Okay, when President go from Yangbeya to BI, we are paying 400 naira. But now we are paying 1,500 naira. Okay, now you pay 1,500 naira, go almost 3,000 naira a day. What will you do? You have to increase your shop in the market, increase in the shop. So let us. I don't want people to say that there's a farmer ahead. I think the food are not scarce. I don't know where you enter public bus before. Where there are no bus. You don't want you. But this one, if you want to buy anything, you will buy. But there's no money to buy. Many of the shops are closing. So I don't see why somebody say they are inflating Gary or nothing. You will see a lot of Gary. More than people are telling the same thing. So are they going to inflate? They are going down. Their market is going down every day. I think the problem is that the stuff that the president removed, that is, you should go back to where you started it.
Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate you. Let's look at Facebook. We have messages on Facebook. For example, Basil Chika says, in as much as insecurity and heather killing continues, the food crisis in Nigeria today, there are other problems we are facing, like the men in uniform who mount roadblocks from the point of purchase to the place of sale. After that, you would face the Agbero menace, extorting from one junction to the other. Then in the market, where you will finally assemble your goods, you would face the Iyaloja and Babalola tickets and their tariffs. And all of this, the government is aware of. But look the other way, and they should not worry because the chicken is gradually coming home to roost. Chikabende from Trade Fair. I think Chikabende is just highlighting the amount of levies that these market or these traders have to pay and how they have to add it to the cost of their products. Thank you so much, Basil Chika. We have to Chukuti Adele, who says, good evening. It is not true that the cause of price increase of food is the people. The cause is President Tinubu's government careless pronouncement that subsidy was gone at the inauguration and the government's inability to assure security of farmers. The APC government have been careless with their remarks, forgetting that businesses thrive on perception. If the people perceive any reason to raise prices and sell, they will. Look at the politics of the new minimum wage, for example. When the market woman is waiting till eternity. Tochukwu Adele Thompson from Obanikoro. Yes, I can understand your perspective, Tochukwu Adele, and this is me trying to say that I don't believe my guess meant that the traders are solely responsible for the problem, but we cannot deny the fact that they are contributing factors. As a matter of fact, there's a video trending on Facebook right now. Not that we take anything we see on Facebook as the facts, but there's a market where the market women were fighting another trader because she decided to sell her own goods at a lesser price, and they all ganged up against her. They said, if you're selling yours at a lesser price, chances are all of the customers will come to you and we will not be able to make sales. So it means that if they're able to reduce the price of their commodity by a little bit such that they can make profit and the consumer can purchase, but they choose not to. And then the one person who chose to do that, they gang up against that person. It's a video that is available on social media. The Lagos state government came up with an initiative, a market where they were supplying goods to these traders to sell at discounted prices, and they chose not to. And when the government, a worker, decided to visit the market unexpectedly, she made a scene. That video is available. You can watch it. She made a scene. She said, we gave you these goods at discounted prices so you can sell cheaply to the people. And then you decided to hike the price. Sole cause of the food inflation, obviously, here on Facebook still. They pay for land resident, especially the fuel subsidy removal. The drivers who own the trucks is higher because of the dollar rate. Things are expensive now because of import duty, which has increased up to 3 times. All the problems Nigeria are facing is caused by the policy of the president. All right, thank you very much, Case Holy, if that is your opinion. We also have Sean Johnson on Facebook who says the policies of the government on removing subsidy and floating the naira is one major issue. Also, insecurity is not allowing farmers to go to their farms. Creating additional ministry is not a good way to cut down on the cost of governance. Corruption due to the excessive levies mounted on the farmers during transportation is another major factor. Thank you very much, Sean, for your message. It's back to the phones now. Hello. Hello, good evening. Please turn down the volume on your radio when you call. We appreciate you. Hello.
Hello, Sage. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, this is John calling from Ojota.
Welcome.
So I greet your guest honorably. You see, what he was saying is that the pronouncement of Tinubu because of misplaced priority, that's what put Nigeria into this stick. The whole country stick because of the pronouncement and the policy. Tinubu policy is the anti-policy to the welfare of good citizens. You see, the logistics from the farmer, those who are crushing the machine crusher for cassava, they have increased the price because the price of petrol is no longer the same. And don't see this association of a thing. That guy should be speaking of misplaced priority. I could see, hello, Sage.
Yes, go ahead.
There was a time that there is one governor of Safara came to Nigeria Info studio. He was saying that we know all these bandits, we know their people, we know that. Okay, what do you do? It's just because all the blame, we don't have leadership. And that is why we can't have governance. And Nigeria problem also is no one mind. Everybody just talk anyhow, but we are not facing anything. No leadership, no good governance. God bless you.
Thank you so very much for calling. Hello.
Oh, Babalola.
Prince Wise, good evening.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. For my own, I just want the president because the latest 2012 century, for me, I'm not at all with it. If the federal government wants to give us something, set up a center, let the local government. Let people go there to buy this, but that price. But if I say you give it to the government, those governors are, for me, they are not doing the right for as it is. The importance of food. Let's say, between that paper money, the mention, the everybody bring in, the federal government to bring in food, the state to bring in food. I'm telling you, the price will come down as of today. Tomato is coming down now. So if for that enough for the market, the price will come down. And the Mr. President will not forget this kind of thing we are talking about. Milk can only take 3 or 4 months. So if the federal government ready to feed this country and state government ready to assist the federal government to feed the country, they can do it. The rights we are talking about today, actually it doesn't drop on heavy. It is human being that planted it. So we too can do the same here because we have to be that land, green land that can grow all water we can eat. But what is meant for us is to do it.
Thank you, Prince Wise.
God bless you. Let me stop here.
Have a great evening. Unfortunately, that's our last call for the day. We have less than 2 minutes to exit the studio. I apologize deeply. I see the plethora of phone calls that are currently coming in. I am so sorry, but not to worry. This is a program that happens every single day from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. We have conversations like this one, and I'm sure this conversation on the food crisis will definitely continue because it is a developing story, especially with the new and fresh initiatives of the federal government, all of their ideas in an attempt to combat the food crisis that we have in the country. Very briefly, if I can, let me look at this message here. FG's policy on importation of food and the waiver of taxes on imported food items is a good decision, as presently the best way to cushion the massive hunger resulting from food shortages in the country, which is caused by the killing and kidnapping of farmers by killer headsmen and bandits. Yᴏᴜᴜᴜ sent us that particular message. Concerning food crisis, I tried to plant maize in my garden. Unfortunately, birds ate up half of the harvest before I could help myself. Furthermore, those who were to roast and sell were trying to dictate prices by buying cheaply but selling at higher prices. My view, therefore, is that traders do take advantage of others. The farmers are not even benefiting from their produce. This is all of the messages I'm able to squeeze in very briefly. We have to go so we can have the full bulletin, the news bulletin at 5:30 p.m. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow, same time, same station, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. And a big shout out to everybody who joined our streaming platform. At 5:30, we have the news. My name is Sage Babalola. Until later, have a great evening.
You're listening to Mainland 90.